New England in autumn is known for the exquisite colors. Quaint towns in the hillsides, nestled in the forest. But there's something else there. Something unspoken. Something eerie. During the chaos of this year, we've had to keep our travels within the Northeast region, and we're incredibly fortunate that we live in an area known for exquisite fall foliage. Using this natural beauty as a backdrop to our adventures, we headed east across northern Massachusetts, taking the scenic route and former wagon roads to some of the strangest, most haunted, and in some cases most tragic locations in New England.
Incorporated 1916. Pretty great. 104-year-old bridge. I guess you can call it a trestle.
The ornate architecture of this home in North Adams, Massachusetts, doesn't allude to the intense paranormal activity that has been reported here over the years. Most of it seems to be centered around the third floor, and that of an apparition of a little girl, perhaps one of the former family members who lived in this home. Welcome to Eerie, New England, our road trip east to west and then west to east back again through safe states in 2020. We're starting at the Houghton Mansion, and you might have seen this on a very old episode of Ghost Adventures. It's in the town of North Adams, Massachusetts, not far from where we're from, and it's known for a really tragic story. A.C. Houghton and his wife and daughter lived in this house, and upon acquiring his first vehicle in the early 1900s, his driver, a family friend, and his wife and his daughter all went on a road trip up to Bennington, but they didn't make it. Their driver accidentally drove the car off the edge of a small cliff down a hill, and when the car rolled over, it killed one of the family friends and his daughter. And their driver was so upset that a day later he shot himself. A.C. Houghton then actually passed away not long after this tragedy. But that's why people think this place is really haunted. You'll notice on one end, there's a giant temple built on the back, and it's because this place is now run by a Masonic temple. So originally the house was the white part that you see that has all this incredible detail. It's amazing looking in person. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be. Haunted location number 1, Houghton Mansion. While there haven't been investigations conducted in this building for a while, the stories and the legends persist. Our next stop takes us to a place of extreme engineering and extreme tragedy. An endeavor in the 19th century to create a train tunnel resulted in more loss of life than one would even imagine for a project like this. And the haunting activity reported from within this tunnel is truly terrifying.
I'm here at the Hoosac Tunnel here in Massachusetts. A lot of tragedy happened here, as Amy will tell you. It definitely has an ominous feel to it. I suppose it's just the perpetual darkness that is in that spot. Unfortunately, we can't go in there. We have to stay out. It's still an active rail line, but we will get near it.
During the 24 years it took to construct this train tunnel, nearly 5 miles long, multiple accidents occurred, including one that forever earned this tunnel the nickname the Bloody Pit. At one point it was used for both passenger and freight trains, but now it's just freight, and even then, fairly sparingly. Estes method stuff. Hoosac Tunnel. Beautiful autumn day. Let's combine these things. Sir? Can you hear me? Hey, Rye. So we're at the Hoosac Tunnel, and I'm Amy, and this is Ryan. And just wondering if there's anyone who can communicate with us. You can interact with this guy next to me. Hello? Hey! Hey! Hello? Anyone? Sir? Sirs?
Are you there?
Yes. Yeah, hi. I can hear you if you talk through this man next to me. Where are you?
Nope. It's so just static, white noise.
It's a little strange that the one thing you said happened after I finally looked around and was like, hello? I started to yell, and a car did pull up, and people are way down there, but they're walking this way, and they're probably thinking, is it haunted like us?
That voice I heard was faint, but definitely clear.
Was it a man?
It was like a kid, like a prepubescent kid. It could have been a woman with a dusky voice, you know. We are in a big valley in the mountains. Does that go to show that it's all radio that you hear with these things?
Like that's what I literally said. Like we're in part of where they cut them out now. It's interesting that you said something when we know radio doesn't work in places like this.
Right.
And when something comes out that's not radio, how much more like,
That
my
was
goodness.
interesting.
Yeah.
I did hear something right when I turned it on. Right as I was putting the earphones on, it sounded like maybe, and then I heard nothing.
Yeah, but this is one of those really incredibly famous places, and there is obviously another entrance. There are trails that run up alongside it. You can get to the top of the mountain. You can see the shafts and the bloody pit. So an exhaust chimney that was on top of an open shaft lit on fire, exploded and fell down, and there were men working in the shaft hundreds of feet down, and the men at the top thought there's no way these guys would survive, and they didn't even send anyone down to try to rescue them. They sent one man down on a lowered platform, and the fumes coming up were so bad that he had to be taken there. They thought no one survived. Months later, they found the men's bodies and learned that some of them had definitely tried to survive a while. No one rescued them. They either suffocated, starved, or drowned in the middle of a shaft in the middle of this mountain behind me. So it's the Bloody Pit. And as far as like what's haunted here, they say a big like darkness descends over a person suddenly, and then you can't find your way out. So I'm like, I don't know. Well, let's not risk that one.
I'm pretty sure that's a fun story.
Well, what if it's not? It's 4 3/4 miles long between the east and west portal, and they say they hear like the sounds of pickaxe, men talking, men working, the sounds of blasting in the distance. I mean, oh boy, now he looks like a cop. Oh. Leaves are falling. I just can't stop like,
I wish we could go in that tunnel. Shouldn't I at least walk a little ways? One thing I will do for you is I'll get a little bit closer to the entrance so you guys can like look in there. So let's go do that. Hello? Is anyone here? Anyone here? Look at the carving. Just chiseled that out, presumably by hand. And into nothingness. Ooh. This is about as far in as I want to go. I'm apprehensive, you know. I don't want to get smacked by a train, and I don't recommend anyone else do this. As you can see, it goes into the darkness a long way behind me. Yeah, very cool, and a feat of engineering despite the tragedy, you know. The Hoosac Tunnel.
I'm going to do something a little different in this area and on this trip. I'm going to pull a tarot card for each location that we're at. And at the end of this entire trip, we're going to put the story together and see what insight we can glean from what was pulled. You don't have to believe me. Just to see. Just to see. I've never investigated that way. Try everything, right? Pentacles. I don't like that place. I'm getting, the closer you were getting to it and more in you were going, the more I was just like, oh my.
Well, I don't like it either. I will say that started walking in there and just a heaviness definitely came over me.
I just don't like it.
Paranormal road trip. That was stop 2.
To the next. That's so quaint. Look at the, I'm getting cozy feelings from a stream.
Here, film this wall.
I'm gonna. Look at this. Beautiful. Part of what they blasted was this bedrock. So they had to dig into this craziness, into this mountain.
It's absolutely gorgeous, guys.
Ryan's champion.
Absolutely beautiful.
Getting us down the hill.
Place and spot. And the tragedy that befell here does not reflect the beauty of what's here now. But this is why we're road tripping, going off the beaten path.
Our next location doesn't have a haunting history, it has a tragic history. And it's so deeply hidden in the woods we almost didn't find it. We came in search of a particular memorial that we knew was just outside of this main cemetery. And unfortunately, the reason it's there is one of the saddest accounts we might have ever come across, comparable only to something like the Villisca axe murders. You'll see.
It's amazing, amazing carving. That's all by hand, which is amazing. How detailed they could get. Those old stones out there. They're all leaning every which way. It's just a sign of age.
Daniel and his wife Lydia.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna walk down to the other entrance. Gets its own spot. Oh wow. Yeah. I don't have any toys for you children, but here, have a quarter. It's a bat quarter. I don't like bats.
That's my favorite kind.
Elizabeth Ann Craig and Frank Naramore lived nearby in Coldbrook, where they raised 6 children. Desperately poor and fearing the separation of her family, Elizabeth Naramore murdered her children on March 21st, 1901. She attempted to take her own life, but did not succeed. In his funeral oration for the children, buried Congressional Church Minister Charles Talmadge condemned the act and put the blame on Frank Naramore's inability to properly provide for his family and the failure of the community to prevent the tragedy. Elizabeth stood trial for the murder of her eldest child and was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She was committed to the State Lunatic Asylum in Worcester and was released 5 years later. Both Elizabeth and Frank disappeared into society, never to be heard from again. But today, many of the laws in the Commonwealth regarding child protection find their origin in this case. And this stone was placed here June 2002. But they are buried in this area outside that main cemetery because nobody was able to pay for the burial of these 6 kids up there. So they were technically outside the cemetery.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Isn't that?
It's crazy. Yeah, out of respect, we're not going to do any sort of investigation in this spot. If anybody deserves peace, it's these 6 children. Unbelievable.
This is was an insanely large tree.
Second time we've seen graves for 6 innocent children in the last year. What is this world?
What are people? Oh, okay.
The tower? What is depicted on that card, guys? Is it similar to what that card is sitting on by any chance?
That's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Eerie, New England is real. That's all I can tell you. It's not just Stephen King. It's not just up to him. It's a lot up to him, but it's not just up to him.
It's up to Cujo.
Oh my God. Shall we move on to our next location on the road trip?
Do it.
You might have noticed we're not very big on investigating for paranormal activity within cemeteries. We really just see these places as peaceful landscapes built as memorials, and it's a nice place to take in the art and honor the people who are buried there.
What's in there? Hey guys, this is the Rutland prison camp ruins. I believe we're in the solitary confinement cells. It's kind of hard to tell. Everything's kind of broke down around here and decayed. It's cool. And it is an out-of-the-way place, I'll tell you what. I need to travel some mountain roads to get here. But as you can see, it's quite graffitied. This one doesn't have a broken ceiling. Yes, this is most certainly a cell.
There's maybe no other point to this room at all.
Yep, the arch ceiling. I couldn't lay on head to toe in this cell. It's quite small. Yeah, this is Nowheresville out here. Nothing but woods, trees, wide open field. All right, let's see what else we can find.
This is part of the Rutland prison camp. This is like a root cellar where like food would be stored. It was built in 1907 for minor offenses, really, like people being drunk in public, people that got into fights and charged with misdemeanors and things. So it wasn't like a maximum security thing. It was the kind of place up in the mountains where it was all self-contained, and they had a hospital and medic section. They had their own water tower. They grew the crops, so this would be like the crop storage. It finally closed in the 1930s because they found out pretty much this whole area was like a floodplain for the water supply and wastewater, and it was not a place that could keep functioning the way it was. So after the 30s, this place shut down, and there's really not much left. This is just one of like a few building structures, just because it's stone and concrete. So it definitely echoes like a root cellar.
You ask me why I'm wearing sunglasses with night vision. Go ahead, ask me. Because I'm cool, that's why.
This is the fire pit where satanic cults do their dirtiest of work. I'm kidding. It's people who are young having a fire.
Got your cards?
Yeah, I do.
Let's pull one.
Let's pull one at the ritual fireplace.
That's right.
All right, Rutland prison camp. Six of Swords in verse.
Down too.
Look, there's a little tiny poop emoji right here.
This is the tunnel underneath what's left of the Rutland prison camp. Okay, this is the end of the tunnel. This is probably not a place I would want to spend the night. Go back here, as you can see, the floor is full of debris. There's a barrel right here, and it's got all holes in it. I assume someone's lit a fire. That's about as far as I want to go. You know what could be down here, though?
Snakes.
That's right.
Snakes.
Seems like a snake area to me.
Little snakes.
All right. Time to climb out. I'll let Amy go first. Pretty creepy. Pretty creepy.
It's a little easier on the way out.
That's the Rutland prison camp, Rutland, Massachusetts. The pizza party's in the hole.
Is that an animal or a person? What am I hearing?
Sounds like a dog. Might be in somebody's car.
As we left Massachusetts, we turned north into New Hampshire and headed toward a 1649 farmstead turned into a bed and breakfast that, yes, it's haunted, and yes, we stayed the night. This property is part of the original settlement at Oyster River Falls, and it's a living record of over 3 centuries of progress and development in New Hampshire. It's even one of the oldest structures in the state of New Hampshire. The first owner was a man named Valentine Hill, a leading New England 17th century entrepreneur, and his farmstead was massive. Funny story, we didn't know there was a beautiful 18th century cemetery behind the hotel until the next morning. It's because when we rolled up, it was dark out. To see our entire investigation, you'll have to wait for another video from Eerie, New England. Until then, stay weird.